Okay, so for week 14 Monday, really only have two priorities. First thing is I am going to be going over the Learning Stations packet with you. So hopefully you got all the information and got everything correct while you're going around. But there's a few answers I just want to make sure that you definitely have correct before we have the quiz tomorrow. So that's kind of the first priority, is going over that packet. Second priority, if we have time, which I anticipate that we will, is to work on corrections for the Revolution essay. So hopefully you're all done with your narrative corrections by now. If not, you should work on those too. But Revolution corrections is the same thing, same process, resolving the comments, using the grammar book in a page document to resolve those, and then, submitting the essay for checking. So the first thing I'll go over will be the Learning Stations packet. Okay, so let me see if I can do this in presentation mode. Hey, all right. So I'm going to go station by station, and obviously there's some stations I won't really be able to go over if there's a lot of possible answers, but for the ones that do have answers, I will try to go over those. Also, I have highlighted any answers that are really, really important, aka show up on the quiz tomorrow, in red. So feel free to mark those as we go along while you're checking all your answers to make sure that they are correct. Okay, so next up, Station 1, the wooden horse. So the most important questions from this section are, you do need to know what the Trojan War is. That's important. And then the other important thing is that it took Odysseus another 10 years after the Trojan War, an additional 10 years, and that the story of his journey, which is what we will be reading, will be called the Odyssey. So double check all the answers, make sure things look good, and on to the next station. Station 2, the epic. So I've just put in bullet point form all of the words that end up in the blanks. So unless the words are red, then that is not a little clover that you need to be as concerned about. So those are the blanks for the first bit. Okay. Now, you do need to know the definition of an epic. So the clover that covers the definition of an epic tells us that it is a poem talking about a larger-than-life character, goes through very dangerous things important to the history of a group or culture. So do need to know what an epic is. It is indeed a poem. The other thing you need to know is this funny Latin term, in medias res. So that literally translates to in the middle of things. So guessing the in is in, and medias is middle, and res is things. In middle things. And it tells us that our story will begin in the middle of the action instead of at the beginning. So those two definitions will definitely show up on the quiz. Okay, next, a few more clovers here. Nothing quiz-worthy, but talking about the oral tradition and the way that culture featured as important. And then the second to last clover is the definition of an archetype. So an archetype is a situation, character, image, or symbol that appears in the cultures of many different civilizations. So knowing that kind of character type. When I think of archetypes, I try and think of really common ones, really universal ones. Like, we definitely have a kind of mental archetype, a mental character type for what a hero is supposed to be like. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen many, many movies, read many books where there is a hero character, but they all have, kind of similar qualities. Typically, they're very brave. Often they have some kind of special skill. So, that sort of character type. Okay, and then just some more examples of archetypes in addition to the hero, the The trickster is another kind of common character. The monster. So all of these sort of character types. Okay, the Judgment of Paris. The most important thing to take away from the Judgment of Paris is that the most beautiful woman in the world is Helen, and her husband's name is Menelaus. Now, for a lot of these, I have the Greek name instead of the Roman name. So I think in the story it says Juno, Venus, and Minerva instead of Hera, Aphrodite, and Athena. Either is fine. I'm not picky. Whichever you prefer. I like the Greek names better personally, so that's why I chose those, but they are interchangeable. The only thing I want to make sure you did not interchange is please do not tell me that Odysseus married Helen. He did not. He came up with the oath for her protection, but he did not marry her. Okay, Station 4, the Trojan War. Biggest takeaway from this, you do need to know that the Trojan War was between the Trojans, hope you got that one, and the Greeks. So the Greeks bounded together. Some people say Sparta. Sparta is part of Greece, but it is not all of Greece. So the Greeks came together to try to defeat the Trojans, and it took them 10 years to get through. Okay, next up, Station 5. Now, I just want to make a note that I have Athena and Poseidon here. I have them listed first because they're the most important, but I'm pretty sure that you don't actually get to them until the second page on the learning packet. So no stress if they're not in the same order as mine. But you do need to know what a myth is. A story that uses fantasy, fantastic, crazy, not of reality things, to express ideas about life that cannot be easily explained in realistic terms. For Athena and Poseidon, I also really wanted to emphasize that you need to know how they relate to Odysseus. So these were the only two gods where it specified whether they were on Odysseus' side, his ally, or whether they were against him, his enemy. So you do need to know those things. So add that if you did not have that. Okay. On the second page of that, you do need to know who Homer is. He is a blind poet. Seems like a contradiction, but in the times of oral tradition, he made it work. And he's credited with writing the Odyssey and the Iliad. You also need to know what a Homeric or an epic simile is. And normally when we think of simile, we think of comparison using like or as. An epic simile will not have the word like or as in it, and it will be very lengthy. It is typically a multi-line comparison between two unlike subjects. Okay, next up, Station 6, Epithets and the Odyssey. And I put this all on one slide, even though it covers 2 pages. You do need to know what an epithet is, a descriptive word or phrase accompanying or occurring in place of the name of a person or thing. These are just a few of the examples. You don't have to have the same examples as me for the examples from the Odyssey. And then obviously your examples about you and your friends, that could be anything. So I hope you had fun making those. If you're still lacking one, just don't forget Miss Blackburn, best teacher of all time. That's an excellent epithet if you are searching for one. Okay, and an odyssey is a long, wandering, and eventful journey. And now we know exactly how long Odysseus's wandering and eventful journey will be. All right, last station, Station 7, cool website. You do need to know that Ithaca is a Greek island. The fact that it is an island is key, and it is part of Greece, and that Odysseus is the king of Ithaca. And you do need to know the definition of an allusion with an A. It is not something that you see that isn't there. That's allusion with an I. Allusion with an A is a reference. And I have a slightly inappropriate way to help you remember this particular definition. So the reason that people make allusions is because they are trying to take advantage of the instant identification that people would have when you make that reference. So if you had a restaurant, scratch that. If you had a workout gym and it was called Hercules Workout Gym. That allusion is taking advantage of the fact that we know who Hercules is, and we know that he is buff and he is muscly, and it's implying that if you come to this gym, you will end up like Hercules, right? So that's my appropriate allusion example. But I wanted to give you a slightly inappropriate one because for some reason those seem to stick in people's heads better. So you may recall that the thing that made Troy so hard to conquer, the reason it took them 10 whole years to do it, was the Trojan walls. The Trojan walls were strong, they were powerful, they provided very good protection. You probably see where I'm going with this. So, while wandering through the grocery store or the pharmacy, you may have seen a modern day product that uses this name, that takes advantage of this name. Trojan condoms try to use illusion as a reference to imply that their product will protect you as effectively as the Trojan walls protected the city of Troy. The only way that the Trojan walls were defeated, in fact, was through trickery. Hopefully, there is no trickery when dealing with other forms of protection. But point being, slightly inappropriate, but that's a good way to remember illusion, that kind of reference to the Trojan walls providing good protection and implying to the consumer that when they someday need this protection, that it will be there to, keep things safe and secure. So, all right. So that's the packet. Hopefully that helped if you were missing anything. And like I said, the only other thing we're dealing with today are revolution corrections. So if your packet's good to go and your revolution corrections are in good shape and you have studied for the quiz and you're ready for that, then you're done.